All right, so we'll concentrate on the input harness here. So this 12 pin plugs right into the RSR harness. There's only one analog input left over. Everything else has been consumed. So analog input 8 is right here along with 5-volt and sensor ground. Got two intake air temperature sensors, one of which is going to plug into the stock sensor up near the air box. So I've got a little adapter harness there going to a Rife high temperature intake air temp. Then there's another one plug and play on this harness. Got fuel pressure here, gear position, and then I'm also doing shift kill input from the gear position input also. I'll explain that here in just a minute, but in order to save some of the I/O because we're out on this sport. One of the digital inputs will be used for bringing speed in, so this will plug in line to the speed sensor, so we can do speed-based boost control or things like that. We also have oil pressure, wastegate pressure, and then I've rewired the left hand control for this bike to break out the flash to pass button is going to be rolling anti-lag. So I'm feeding 5 volts in and then getting that out, turning it into sort of a digital input on an analog channel. And then also getting the shift command from the horn button ground is going to the gear position input. So we're getting gear position and shift input off of one analog input going to the ECU. And then I've also got an ethanol sensor here, which this is plugs in directly to the RSR harness after I reworked a couple of things in order to make that work. Okay, then we'll keep going on here to the outputs. So I've got a dash adapter so that the Suzuki coolant temp and FI light can still remain functional. This just plugs right into the 4-pin CAN connector that the RSR harness gives you. And then this guy is going to you're going to de-pin the gauge data wire, which I think is pin 33, on the main 34-pin ECU connector on the bike side, the harness side. Pull that out, basically insert that pin on top of here, then put a piece of heat shrink over top of that. So this will get us coolant gauge functional, as well as the ability to turn the FI light on and off. If this was a Gen 2 bike, could also control ABC mode and the gear indicator on the dash. So for the other stuff on the outputs here, have a few of these left over. Have two 12-volt outputs that are still left over. Ignition 5 and 6, injector 5 and 6. Beyond that, everything else has been consumed. I mentioned before I did rework the harness to get general purpose output 4 added so that we were able to control everything that we wanted to. So essentially we've got a plug and play shift light LED here that will go up front on the bike. Got a air shift solenoid here, and then we've got boost control solenoids for both add and subtract. These are ones I have from another project. This one's actually getting a MaxxECU, one of the nice billet blocks with the solenoids built into it. So anyway, got all this stuff basically able to just plug right into the RSR harness, 12-pin input and output, and then the CAN connector.